kind of gathering around. I'm not a big fan of doing demos like this, but it works. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take out some clay, and this will be fine for now. So nice lumper of clay, okay? Awesome. So you guys all good? See okay? All right. So here's what we're working with. This project we're going to be starting up here is going to be a slab building project. And again, if you guys have had any kind of ceramics in your past, you've probably done something with slabs before. So I've got a whole bunch of rolling pins. Some actually have like little sides on them. Some are just long cylinders of wood. This is, well, it used to be a rolling pin and now it's just a tube. The big name of the game whenever it comes to working with slabs, they actually have machines that will pump this out for you. We don't have one, but they do make them. But the big name of the game, you guys have made, you know, rolling pin art before, most likely in like 3rd grade. You don't want it to be too thin because this thing needs to stand up on its own, okay? So as I'm going along, right, you can kind of tell, be careful as you're pushing because you have a tendency of kind of keeping the backside a little thicker, and as you're pushing down, the top gets a little bit too thin and wobbly, and it's not going to stand up for anything. Now, again, we talked about how this project is based more on decoration. So for yours, maybe you want something that's kind of like, you know, flowing outwards like a flower or something, and that's okay if that's what you choose. But again, be careful about that thinness because then you get this weird like Shamu whale fin thing going on, and it's not good for anyone. All right, so I'm gonna make something kind of small just because of the amount of clay that I have and what we're kind of doing for this demo. So, all right, here's what you'll do. You'll start out, grab a lump of clay, you know, kind of pound it out. Work out the air bubbles if you need to. Take your rolling pin. Now, the thing is you want, like I said, you want to be more on the thicker side. But we talked before, you really don't ever want clay to be bigger than like an inch thick because then you start getting into explosions and troubles like that, okay? You want to go in multiple directions with your rolling pin so that it kind of flows out and irons out all the little imperfections that are there, okay? If for some reason your clay gets stuck to the table at any time, you can always grab one of those wire tools and kind of scoop it right off the bottom. That'll be fine. Also, because we're working right on these tabletops, when you're all done at the end of the day, please remember to actually clean up after yourself. All right, so I've got my little kind of pancake, and you can kind of see about how thick it is. That's a pretty good thickness where it'll stand on its own, right? But it's also not so thick that it's going to explode or anything, right? And you can kind of tell it's maybe a little bit less than ½ an inch, just about, right, give or take. Good rule of thumb, no pun intended. Your thumb right here is about an inch. So if you ever want to know what ½ an inch is, it's like a thumbnail. Cool, fun. So what we're going to be doing is we're working with slabs, and you want to work particularly not only just with slabs, but with rectangular slabs, right? So I'm going to take a little knife right here, and I'll have some of these up in the front in our kind of toolbox, or you can use the plastic ones too, and just kind of slice yourself off. If you want to use a ruler for this, because you want really perfectly straight edges, you are absolutely welcome to. I'm not going to, because it's a demo, but you get the idea. Just like so, take off all my excess. You want it to be nice and rectangular. Cool. So now not only do I have a slab, right, but I've got a nice kind of hardened, edged slab. Good on that? Cool, easy. Now I'm going to turn this into 2 slices. Again, like I said, I'm going to make my demo relatively small, just because of how much clay I have. So what we're going to be working with, we're going to be making a vase, or a vase if you want to be fancy with it, right? That's it, just a vase. But however, sometimes, you know, you think about vases that do kind of this thing going on. We're going to make a rectangular vase. So basically a square bucket, if you want to think about it that way, right? The only difference is, whenever you're done, you've got a lot of clay here, so we can actually start carving into the side. I'll show you what I mean. Let's say, for example, that I've got a whole bunch of sides, right? First thing, we want to make sure that they affix together. So I need to remember to scratch and slip. So I'm going to go ahead and take my tool, and you can take any clay tool that you have. And I'm just going to kind of scratch up the sides, get it all kind of jankety in there. And really what that's doing is think about like Velcro, right? By making it not flat, but making it kind of pointy, it's allowing these other sides to kind of fuse together and hold on nice and tight, okay? So I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom over here. Just cutting it up. If it's not perfect, who cares? Okay, so it's all chopped up, right? Easy. Cool. Little dab of water is all you need. Now we could use an actual water, half kind of clay is called slip, and it's kind of goopy like glue. We're just using straight water for this project. I'll make some slip later. It makes it kind of seal a little bit better. But again, put a little bit of water in there just like you would like glue or something else. And I just kind of push down. You'll see some of the water kind of come out the sides there. That's okay. Okay, so I'm not pushing super hard. Final step, just like you did with your other projects, seal up those edges. It's not going to magically stick on its own accord, okay? So you seal up those edges. I'm going to seal up the edges on the inside as well. And if you can't get your finger in there, use a tool, right? Just kind of get in there and seal up those edges so that it's nice and smooth, okay? And what you find is it holds on just fine, okay? Right? A little bit of scratch and slip, a little bit of water in there, seal it up, and you're good to go. Now let's pretend that I've done this all the way around. I've got myself a nice kind of vase. And here, again, you're welcome to make yours much, much larger. If you want to put some long stem roses in there or whatever the heck you're making for mom, I don't care. All right, so you've got your vase or your vase. Now let's say at this point you wanted to actually start to decorate it, right? So my suggestion to you guys is this. Grab one of those hoop tools, right? Of which we have a whole bunch in our toolbox over here. Grab one of those hoop tools, get a whole bunch of tools if you want. I've got a whole bunch of different sets of tools. And I want you to start thinking about what you can actually decorate, like physically carve into this piece. So maybe for mine, as I'm looking at it, maybe I want it to be, I don't know, I want it to have like a cool pattern or something, like a striped thing going on. So I'm going to kind of mark this out. I'll mark out what I want. Maybe one has this kind of scarification kind of going on, almost like a tattoo or something. Right, kind of like chip chopping it up just a little bit. Gives it a little bit of some texture to it, so it's not just plain clay, right? And maybe the other one, I'm going to kind of do, I don't know what, I want to cut something out of it.
Circle.
Do circles? Okay. Sure. It's a great idea. Why not? Whoop. And notice, because it's a hoop, I'm kind of rotating my wrist around as I do it. Just like that. Do another one. Kind of rotate around. Scoop it out. So, just like that. Right? Circles. Right? Okay. Get the gist. And again, you can do something like this where you're involving pattern. Maybe you don't want to do pattern at all, right? Let's pretend that this is the side. Maybe you actually want to physically carve something in, almost like a Greek frieze or something. I actually want to like put a whole picture or something in here. Maybe I want some, I don't know, Greek lady or something. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what your family's into. So I could actually start physically kind of carving in here, kind of get an idea of what, you know, what figure I want. Maybe like a little dancer or something doing her thing. Almost like, think like, you know, Greek or Egyptian like hieroglyphics, something like that. So I can kind of like carve into it, just very simply line art. And then, again, grab that hoop tool and kind of carve away a little bit. Get some of this stuff out of here, right? Kind of do what's called a relief, where you kind of carve into it to get rid of some of that excess junk. Get some of this stuff out of the way here. Kind of carve around it a little. Okay, and what's happening by removing some of this clay around it, it basically makes almost like a stamp. It makes the little figure that I have kind of stand out. Okay. Show you a little bit. See how it kind of makes him stand out a little bit? He's kind of popping out like a stamp, right?
Should you carve that out before you make the project?
You can. Here's the thing. What's neat about this project, and the reason we're kind of starting off with something as simple as kind of rectangular blocks, and we're making a rectangular base, you can absolutely carve them out ahead of time, keep them wet, and fuse them together later. Or what you could do, put them together, you can actually let it sit out for about a day, and what happens is it gets what's called leather hard, which is kind of where some of your pieces are at. And even while it's leather hard, you can actually still, you can still carve into it, right? So, yeah, you can't add anymore, you're right. But you can actually carve into it, and then that might give you a different technique. Don't be afraid to experiment with your techniques. So again, you can kind of go more figurative with it and actually try to carve like a scene, or go more pattern-based, that's okay too. But the name of the game with this project, it's not gonna be that hard to build the vase. The name of the game is gonna be adding in a little bit of cool texture or some kind of imagery that we can then, once we actually bake it, go back and use some glaze to kind of paint over top. Make it so that it's something you could actually give someone as a gift, or maybe you want to use yourself. Make it something that is a genuinely finished piece. And again, obviously, make it bigger than mine. But there's no limitations on scale or anything like that. If you want to make it really large and in charge, do it. If you want to make a medium-sized one, that's okay too. Cool? Any major questions as far as scratch and slip goes, or carving, or conceptualizing? Cool? Okay, guys. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to let you go. If you need to finish up in your skull, do that. If you need to finish